Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Nanika Yawa, and on this channel, I speak about studying abroad, life abroad, and also help people with their study abroad process. I also guide visa application processes. So if you want to study abroad or you're just curious about the study abroad process, then you are at the right place. So make sure to stick around and know whatever is going on. Please make sure to like, comment, and also subscribe to get more of these videos. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I got into the US with a full scholarship to pursue my master's degree, and I didn't have to write any standardized tests. I didn't have to write any GRE or SAT or any other standardized tests. I just applied without any of these standardized tests, and I was able to secure a full scholarship to pursue my master's degree. And so that is the story I'm going to share with you today in this video. Now let's get right into it. I completed KNUST in Ghana in 2023. I was in the civil engineering class of 2023, and before I graduated that class, I had no idea I would be studying or pursuing my master's in the US. It wasn't even part of my plans, honestly speaking. The only plan I had was to get a job and get money. I wanted to gain experience and then get money as usual because everybody wants money. So that was the plan I had. That was my plan after graduation, until a friend of mine came to my room and he spoke about this whole study abroad process, and it really ignited something in my spirit. It just ignited my spirit, and I decided to apply. I decided to go through this process and then get it, and thankfully I am here. Yes. So yeah, during my last semester, I was in my room and I have this friend whose hostel was close to mine. So he was going home and he passed by my hostel to say hi. And when he came, we were talking about life and our plans and all those things. I do have friends like that, and I'm really grateful to God that I have friends like that, friends that you can talk about these things with. And whilst we were talking, he mentioned something about code emails, and I didn't know what code emails were. So I was just surprised. I was like, what is code email? And then he was like, code email is an email that you write to professors expressing your interest to work with them. Okay, so that is what code email is. You just write an email to a professor and then express your interest of working with them. And if they are also interested in working with you, they will then decide to sponsor your education, that kind of thing. Yeah, so he mentioned this and I was like, because I've never heard that thing before. And mind you, before that day, that phrase, studying abroad, I never thought it would be something that I would be saying. I was a good student though, but it wasn't something that I thought it would just come, like I will be able to do it by myself. And I know most people don't think that they can do it themselves. It's not that scary, okay? It's not that scary. So I decided to take a step and then look more into it and then try my luck, because as I said earlier, it wasn't really part of my plans. It was part of my plans, but it was part of my long-term plan. It wasn't something that I had thought of doing like immediately after school. So when he said it, I was like, oh, okay, then maybe I'll just look more into it and see what he's saying. So I asked him because he felt like he had a lot of knowledge about it and he had already started the study abroad process. So I decided to ask him for help and ask for more information about this whole study abroad process. And he never hid anything. He didn't gatekeep. He shared everything that he knew and also helped me through my study abroad process. The first thing I did was to research universities. I went online. I just used Google. That time, I wasn't using ChatGPT. I just used Google and I searched for schools, specifically schools that were not requiring standardized tests. Okay, standardized tests like SAT or GRE or TOEFL or whatever, because I was tired. I was now about to finish my bachelor's degree and I didn't have the mental capacity to go and study again for another exam. I was really stressed. So I just wanted to apply to schools that did not require any standardized tests like SAT, TOEFL, or GRE. So that was what I did. I just looked for schools that were not requiring those standardized tests. As I was looking for the schools, I also checked their requirements. Even though some of the schools were not requiring standardized tests, some of them were not offering the program that I wanted to offer. I'm a civil engineering student and I had interest in transportation, but not transportation like the traffic aspect, but more like a road construction aspect. Okay, so that was my interest. And most of the schools I was getting, they were not having that kind of concentration. So I had to make sure I get a school that was offering the program that I wanted to pursue and also the concentration. Okay, so that was what I did. I looked for schools and then I checked their requirements and made sure that I would be able to fulfill all the requirements of that school. And thankfully, I did. So I started with a cold email, and before I even started with the cold email, I went to the schools that I wanted to apply to, went to the school's website, went to their faculty, and checked the professors that were there under that program that I wanted to pursue, which is civil engineering, and specifically that concentration that I wanted under civil engineering. I looked for professors there and I looked at their research. And even before that, you have to know your research interest, because research is something that you can't escape when you're in the US or even any other country that you're going to, but specifically the US. So you have to know your research interest in order to know the professor that you want to work with. Every professor has their own research interest, their own research that they're working on. Even though they are related to your program, you may not be interested in that particular research. Okay, so you have to know the kind of research interest that you have in order to find a professor whose research interest is also similar to what you want in order to work with that person. So that was what I did. I went to the school's website, look for professors who were researching on things that I was interested in, specifically who shared similar research interests with me. So that was what I did. And when I got these professors, I wrote out their emails. I had a spreadsheet created for it. So I had a spreadsheet with the names, the professors, their emails, and the kind of research interests that they all had. So that was what I did. I had a spreadsheet for that. To be honest with you, that spreadsheet really helped me. Then I started writing emails to them. I started sending emails out to these professors and asking them to work with them, because I had interest in what they were doing and I was interested in working with them on some projects that they were working on. So that was what I did. I sent out code emails to a whole lot of schools. I just expressed my interest in working with these professors because I had some research background in that specific area that they were working, and I had some knowledge about the research that they were doing. So I was interested in working with them. So that was all that the email entailed. I was just getting ignored. So at a point, I was like, I'm not sending this code email again. I'm not sending it again. And most of them were not replying, honestly speaking. So I sent these emails out. Most of them did not reply, and some of them also replied with negative feedback. I did have one positive feedback, but he required that I write a GRE before I'll be able to apply, because it was part of the admission process. They had a requirement, and that was for me to write GRE in order to even qualify for an admission. And I was like, I don't really want to write GRE, so I don't know. So I just put it there and then I waited for the rest. I kept on writing emails and I wasn't getting the replies that I wanted. And so I decided to apply anyway. So I applied to about four schools, and I think four or five. Yeah, I applied to about five schools. And mind you, I didn't pay application fees for all those schools. And that is one thing that you also have to consider, because I applied to five schools and each of these schools had their own application fee. And mind you, I was just in Ghana. Like, me, what job am I even doing? Throughout this whole process, I was done with school and I had started my national service, and I was receiving 797. What was the amount? 700 and something Ghana cedis. How much am I going to get from this national service for me to pay all these application fees? So I wasn't really getting money. And luckily for me, my sister is here. My sister is already in the US. She was the one who helped me with my application fee, but I didn't want her to pay a lot of money for all the schools. So I decided to look for schools that waived application fees as well, so that I can apply to those schools. And Wayne State University was one. They waived the application fee, so I applied to that school. But for some of the schools, they didn't waive the application fee, and so I had to pay the application fee on my own. And I think I paid the application fees for three schools. Yes, so that was what I did, and my sister was the one who helped me with the application fee and everything. And so I applied. I applied to these five schools, and by God's grace, after I applied, I think I sent my application in November, ending of November, I think 29th of November. But the deadline for my current school was 31st December. But I sent my application early because I wanted a scholarship and I didn't have any professor. I hadn't secured any professor. So I just sent my application early so that in case of any scholarship, I'll be able to get that scholarship. I sent it in 2023, and in 2024, January 2024, the early beginning of January, I received an email from my current professor. He sent me an email requesting to have a meeting with me and concerning my application. He just wanted to have a meeting with me, and I thought it was an interview because that was what my friends were going through. Like, most of my friends were having interviews with their potential professors. So I thought, oh, he wants to have an interview with me. And I started preparing. Like, I started writing questions down and answering questions and doing a whole lot of things. Fortunately for me, when I got to the interview, It wasn't even an interview. He just said, I want to know you. I just want to get to know you. That's all. And I was like, what? And I had a whole thing planned out. I had answered a whole lot of questions and I had memorized a whole lot of things that I was going to pour out to him. And he just said he wanted to know me. He didn't even ask me any question. It was just one question about my previous research that I did in KNUST. He just wanted to know something about that research that I did in KNUST. That was my final year thesis. He wanted to know something about it, and then he asked me. It was just one question, and I answered, and that was it. Sorry. It was actually two questions. So the first question was about my research, the research that I did. Now, the second question is going to blow your mind. Like, I was surprised that he asked me that question. I was surprised that he asked me that question, honestly speaking, because I wasn't expecting that. The last question he asked me was if the school was to give me an admission, would I accept? And I was like, why would I not accept? Like, are you kidding me? I applied. Like, in my head, I just said this in my head though. I didn't open my mouth to say it. In my head, I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I applied to the school because I want to come there. What are you saying? Yeah, so I had to just keep my cool. In that moment, I felt like I was this hot cake that everybody wanted. So I wanted to play cool, like I wanted to play cool and let them know that I have options. I wanted to play cool and let him think that I have options. That he's not the only option I have. So I kept my cool. I kept my cool, and then I was like, yes, I will accept only if he gives me funding because that is what I want. I want funding. I don't have enough money to sponsor my education. So if he's willing to sponsor my education, I would gladly accept. And he said, okay. Before the meeting ended, he mentioned that I'm going to hear from them in about 2 weeks. So I was like, okay. And we ended the meeting. So fingers crossed. I was like, God help me. Of all the schools that I had applied to, that was the only school I had heard from. So I was like, fingers crossed though, please God help me. God help me. And then I started fasting and praying, fasting and praying. Hey, oh I kept on fasting and praying, fasting and praying, fasting and praying. 2 weeks later, I had an admission from the school, which is my current school right now. I had an admission from them that I have been accepted into the program. The admission did not come with the funding. However, in the admission, they mentioned that I was going to get funding and that was going to come in a separate email. So I waited and I think I had that offer letter 2 weeks later. So 2 weeks later, I had the offer letter. I opened it. I saw my stipend. I saw what I was going to do, my employment agreement and everything. It was like, oh my God. I was so happy. Oh my God. I was so happy. I didn't know what to do with myself. I called my mom. I called my sister and we were all shouting. That time I was going to work. So I was by the roadside and I started shouting and everybody was looking at me. Everybody was just looking at me. I was like, oh my, I'm so happy. I am going to the US. I was so happy. I was so happy. Like I didn't know what to do to myself. Yeah, so that was how I got my admission. That was it. I didn't have any plans of studying outside the country. My plan was to just finish school, find work to do, gain some experience, and get some money. And then I would think about pursuing my master's degree, probably in the US because my sister was here. But things turned out great, and I am so glad. So if you want to study abroad, if you want to study outside the country, if you want to pursue your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, or even your PhD, I want to tell you that it's very possible, okay? Because I didn't know anything about it, and a friend of mine was the one who helped me do everything. Most of my friends, they were so welcoming, they were so good. And one thing I realized is boys have information. The men or the boys, they always have information. So if you're a lady like me, stick to the boys, so stick to them, okay? Because most of my friends were guys and they have information. And if you are their friend, they will share it. They don't gatekeep. So get close to them, find out. If you don't ask questions, nobody is going to tell you anything because they assume that you know. Okay, so ask questions. It doesn't hurt to ask questions, just ask questions and then get answers. And it's very possible, okay? It's very possible for you to study outside the country. It's not a huge thing for huge people. It's not only meant for people with high qualifications. It's not meant for people with just first class. Okay, this application thing is a broad thing. The GPA or your first class is just one piece of that application. Okay, it doesn't determine everything. So even if you have a lower GPA, you can still study outside the country. It is not only meant for people with first class. I'm saying this because I know some people who completed with second class, lower, and they are even here. Some people even completed with pass. It's not something that you usually hear. It rarely happens, but it happens. You never know. So ask questions and then try everything in your power to get here if you want to study abroad. It is not just for people with first class. It's meant for everyone. You can achieve this. You can get a full scholarship to study outside the country. You can make your parents proud. You can make your family proud. So don't just think little about yourself. Get up and do this. You will definitely get here. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video and you learn a lot from it. I'm going to be posting videos about this whole study abroad process. So if you have any questions or if you have any concerns, you can definitely type them under the comment section and I will address them or make videos about them. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.